How's it going, everybody? We're back. It is week 9 of NFL. We are past the halfway mark. We're headed into the second half of the season. We have enough film, we have enough tape on these teams to know kind of what's going on and where we want to go, who we can attack and who we can't. This is going to be my first look at week 9 salaries on DraftKings. We're going to go through and we're going to build a lineup, kind of a dummy lineup. Do not, I repeat, do not. It is Monday. It is Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time when I am recording this. So this is not a lineup for you to just jam into your games on Sunday, but it is a first look how we're going to approach the week. I do a lot of content throughout the week. I have an ESPN Insider article, Best Buys, that comes out every Thursday. The Edge Pod, the 06010 Pod at ESPN with Matthew Berry and Field Yates and Stefania Bell and Mike Clay and Daniel Dopp and the whole crew, and the Fantasy Forecast podcast. And then we do a question and answer on Fridays right here on Twitch, as well as the Tinkercast. There's a lot more content to come throughout the week, so get involved. The chat is locked to subscribers only, as it is for every NFL and NBA show right here on this Twitch channel. But if you're watching on Facebook or if you're watching on YouTube, please smash that like button. Hit it hard. Hit it twice. And if you're not a subscriber to the YouTube channel or like the Facebook page, if you would be so kind to give me a like or subscribe there, I would greatly appreciate it. So let's get right into it and look at the salaries for this week. I have done absolutely zero research. I don't know what's what, but I do know that Deshaun Watson is really good. I'm going to talk to you about how to build a head-to-head lineup for this week, which to me means that I do not want to have, I don't think I need to have Deshaun Watson in a cash game lineup. We've spoken about this a lot, okay? Now, Deshaun Watson has been outstanding. Like, if you look at his game logs, 26.5 points averaged. He had two kind of stinkers, right? Came in half of this game, so that one doesn't count. 17.7 in his first game against Cincinnati. Every game since then, 24.3 points and above, with 3 games above 34 points. That's ridiculous production from a QB. It's ridiculous production from a wide receiver or a running back. Mostly buoyed by his rushing yards, but 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. Absolutely insane. 19 touchdowns over the last 4 weeks on not that many completions. He's facing off against Indy, who allows more deep completions. That's 15 or more air yards. Down the field completions than any other team. And they are also one of the worst teams, bottom 5 in the league. I haven't looked at the numbers updated for this week yet because this week isn't over because of the Monday night game. But going into last week, they were worst. They were 4th in the league in terms of completion percentage on those long throws. So they're allowing a lot of volume and a lot of efficiency on long throws. I love Watson for tournaments this week at that price. I don't know that you need to play him in cash games at that price. We're probably going to want to pay down like we do every week. Wilson against Washington is a big favorite. Washington struggles against pass defenses. They're also hurt in the defensive backfield with Perriman missing last week, even though they got Norman back. Just a susceptible team. Same thing with Prescott. Same thing with Alex Smith. Really good plays, but really high priced. Alex Smith a little bit lower and Dak a little bit lower. I mean, just look at the savings here. 1,600 less for Alex Smith. He's averaging 3 points less than is Deshaun Watson. And everybody kind of falls in love with those, oh, he could have 35 points. He could, but he could also have 23. You know, very realistic to think that a quarterback could do that. So I tend to look to pay down. Cam Newton's just not been himself and probably not going to go there this week, even though they're at home and favored against Atlanta. Atlanta gives up a lot of catches to running backs. We'll get to that in just a minute. Kirk Cousins against Seattle, probably not going to go there. Jared Goff against New York Giants. I don't usually attack them all that much. Andy Dalton against Jacksonville. No way we're ever attacking Jacksonville. Indy's going to be chasing 5,200 for Brissett. He gets sacked a ton. Like, this is just a problem for me. And, like, at 5,200, we only need 15 points. Last 4 weeks, he's topped that twice. He's also missed that twice. I mean, it's not going to be comfortable. They made it tough this week to come down at quarterback, right? With how they've priced these guys, which leaves us with Blake Bortles against Cincy. Cincy, one of the top teams in terms of yards per attempt. You know, they're like 1 or 2 in the league in terms of yards per attempt. And Jacksonville's going to try to pound the ball. We see what happened against the Rams. He only had 14 points, 3 points, 12 points. He was extremely efficient against Indy. Shocker. We just spoke about how bad Indy is against the pass. You should stream cheap quarterbacks against them at any chance that you can get. Trevor Siemian against Philly with their bad output against cornerbacks, to me, is a little bit intriguing. And somebody at 4.7K, we need 14 points. He averages 16.3. He has the ability to score over 20. We've seen it a couple of times. If Emmanuel Sanders is back, I really, really like this play. If he's out, I think it's still fine at 4,700, especially for a dummy lineup to start from. Brissett gives you the rushing yards as well. You know, gives you a good floor. And against Houston, who's giving up a ton of yards and is without two of their most key defensive players with Merciless and J.J. Watt out, I don't hate him. I think that Simeon's got a higher floor than Brissett. Brissett probably has a higher ceiling than does Simeon. I think it's a coin toss for those two for your cheap quarterback as we sit right now. Looking at running back, Ezekiel Elliott, if he plays, he's going to be a good play all the time. Kareem Hunt, we know he's going to play. Good play all the time at the high end. I prefer the favored running back at home if and when I'm going to go with a running back, especially when I'm spending up. Mark Ingram against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a team that we want to attack through the air, but it's hard to ignore Ingram's volume that he's been getting the last 3 weeks since the Adrian Peterson trade. 25, 22, 18, 5, 4, 6. He's getting 5 catches a game. He's getting 22 carries a game. That's 27 touches for 7,600. That's still too cheap, right? It was too cheap last week at 7,300 when he scored 19.9, which came down from 7,400 the week before. He's pretty consistent in this scoring range. He's getting a lot of work around the goal line. And if he's going to get me 100 yards from scrimmage plus 5 catches, that's 15 fantasy points. We need about 21, 22 from him to reach value. I still think he's fine this week, even though we might want to also have exposure to that New Orleans pass game. I don't know that there's really what do you guys think, chat? You think that there's like a cheap running back that we should be going after here? You think we should be paying up? You like Kamara better? Interesting. What's Kamara's price? 6,300? Yeah, it's a good shout. Here's my issue with Kamara. You're not going to get the carries. Last week, 3 catches. He scored a touchdown. That's what booed him. He would have had 10 points. Right? DraftKings, we want at least 3x for cash. You need 4 or 5x for tournaments. He's at the point where he needs to get you 25 DraftKings points to be viable as a tournament play, and he needs about 18 for cash. So he's reaching a price point where he's not getting the volume to really make me want to pay for that. McFadden could be a thing if Zeke is out. McFadden will be a thing if Zeke is out. The question is, do you think it's going to be McFadden or do you think it's going to be Alf? You know, which one do you think it's going to be? Chat, what do you think? Just throw it in there. Throw in a 1 if you think it's going to be McFadden. Throw in a 2 if you think it's going to be Alf. Alf Morris. CJ Anderson at 4,800 against Philly in Philly. Philly's not a defense I want to attack on the ground, and I don't want to use a running back really on a team that's going to be an underdog and on the road, especially one that's not going to be heavily involved in the passing game. Somebody wrote 12 in the chat. Nice work. Well played. The one who's interesting yet again to me. Here's the one that's interesting to me once again. Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon did not get a ton of volume this week again. 11 carries, 3 targets, but showed how big a play, showed his big playability with that 67-yard catch that he got knocked down on the 3 that could have been a touchdown. And now he squares off against a team in Jacksonville that is amazing against the pass, but is hemorrhaged yards against the run. And if he's going to be the guy that's involved in the passing game, not a bad shout for a first look lineup. Who else do we have? Not playing Blunt against Denver. I don't do that. Not going to play Marlon Mack. And they've really tightened it up here. Darkwood did not get the carries that he got before their last game. 5,600 for Peterson. He's on the road, but does the road really matter when San Francisco's involved? I don't mind that one at all. I kind of don't mind that play. So let's do this. Let's throw this because you know me. I want to pay it at that spot. And then let's do this. Let's throw Peterson there. But I think that for tournaments, and it went to wide receivers. For tournaments, I think that Mixon's viable. I don't know that he's getting the volume that these 3 guys are going to get. I mean, Kareem Hunt, what are we getting? You kind of know what you're getting. That Pittsburgh game, anomaly. They should have given him the ball. They didn't give it to him at all in the first half, and he kind of got there in the second. but like you're going to get 20 plus carries or 20 plus touches out of Kareem Hunt. I know he's on the road, but he's going to be involved in the passing game, so I'm okay with that. He's going to be game flow independent. Let's throw a 3K defense in because that's what we always do, right? I don't even care who it is. Just ignore the defense. We're always throwing in a 3K defense because it's right in the middle. We'll talk about defense at the end, but just so we can get our average salary remaining. So those are the 3 running backs in the first look. With Trevor Siemian, I don't even know that you need to pair Siemian. You just go naked Siemian. I'm fine with that. It's funny. Last week, the 3K defense that we used was the Bills, right? I was just, don't worry about it. I'm not even looking at which defense it was, and it was the Bills. So, like, that worked out. Really like Michael Thomas this week. Want to have some exposure to this New Orleans pass game. Drew Brees, somebody you're going to want to have exposure to in tournaments. Again, Drew Brees home road splits, plus Tampa Bay being inept against wide receivers, especially against slot receivers. The slot receiver in New Orleans right now looks like it's Snead, but he's like getting no love in the slot. Like since he's been back, he was active this week, got no love. Fourth guy. They're pushing the ball to Coleman, they're pushing the ball to Ginn, and they're pushing the ball to Thomas. Thomas, 8 targets, 11 targets, 6 targets, 11 targets against an inept pass defense. Ted Ginn, 4 targets, 7, 4, 2, right? And we talked about on the edge this week, they're going dink, dunk, deep, right? They did that. That's where he kind of caught that long play. Coleman, 1 catch for 54 yards. I really want to get involved with Thomas this week, but I don't know if we can afford it. Let's look at tight end real quick. Fleener at 2.7. God, no targets, though. We were talking about this before we went live. I was talking with the chat. And even though you don't want to, you're not probably going to have that much exposure to the Texans offense in your cash game lineup because they really priced up Will Fuller. They really priced up DeAndre Hopkins, highest priced guy in the slate, and Watson at 8,100. A little bit restrictive for cash games, right? I mean, we're saving like 3,500 here to be able to pay at these other spots. So tough to get to these guys in your cash game lineups. But on the other side of the ball, T.Y. Hilton really cheap, although getting absolutely no service, right? 8, 7. He's got a quarterback that can't really connect down the field. And Luck is not going to be back. It's a week to buy on Hilton and GPPs. I don't know if I'm sold on him in cash games yet, but the guy that we should be sold on is still right here. 14, 11, 7, 7. 39 targets in the last 4 weeks, an average of 9+ targets a game for a $4,300 tight end. Find me a wide receiver priced between $4,000 and $5,000 who is getting 9 targets a game and getting a good market share of his team's red zone looks. Jack Doyle is once again kind of a plug and play this week for me. There's going to be other tight ends are in good spots as well. Ertz's price came down a little bit. Evan Ingram, going to get a ton of service as always because there's nobody else there. Jimmy Graham, fine, and he's starting to perform. If you follow Mike Clay's stuff, he does something called OTD, which is touchdown potential. Have you gotten a lot of service? We've spoken about this with Garcon, with Thielen, with Jimmy Graham, with a lot of other players that are getting a ton of targets, a ton of catches, a good amount of red zone looks, but not converting those into touchdowns. And those guys are going to regress or ascend to the mean. I mean, you can regress to the mean from the other side. I like to say ascend because it's, even though it's not grammatically correct, it's easier for people to understand that this guy is going to see some positive regression, which to me is ascension, but whatever. He's been very involved in the passing game recently and around the goal line. And you can see 4 touchdowns over the past 3 games to kind of even out that OTD rate where he was not scoring touchdowns through the first 4 weeks, is scoring touchdowns over the last 3 games. We saw Thielen get into the end zone finally after getting all the touches and all the catches and all the targets that he had been getting. He scored in London. Useless for us because it was off the main slate. But we knew that he was going to get in there eventually. So OTD kind of taking over recently for Jimmy Graham. Jason Witten probably not going to go to him this week, even though apparently he's on brand for me. Austin Hooper getting more targets recently. He had that one target game against New England, just baffles me, but more targets 3 of the last 4 weeks there, which is what we were looking for, which he was not seeing the first 3 games. Again, could not understand this. He's getting way more targets now. That's kind of what they need to do. As far as a cheap tight end, what do you guys see? Could be Ted Ginn week again. Yeah, I don't disagree. I want as much exposure to that Saints offense as possible, especially in GPPs with double stacks with Drew Brees. You know, Brees and 2 receivers. Ed Dixon, George Kittle. Kittle's going to be a problem, but I don't know if this is the week for him. Jonnu Smith. I mean, is Delaney out? Higbee's the other one, if you believe in flowchart life. 2,800. Not getting a ton of targets, right? Got a bunch against Seattle, a bunch against Dallas. This is the Giants, right? And the Giants are part of our flow chart to attack with tight ends on defense. Higbee and Everett are the 2 tight ends for the Rams that we might want to look at here. 2,700 against the Giants, who seemingly give up a touchdown to a tight end every week. Let's go tight ends. Where's Rams? I missed them. I scrolled by them. Los Angeles Rams. Higbee 2,800, Everett 2,600. Everett not really that involved. Higbee more involved in the passing game if you kind of look at the game logs. No more than 3 targets in any game for him. Higbee at least has a couple of games where he's seen a ceiling of 6 and 8 targets in a couple of games. The guy that I think is useful here on the Rams, though, is Cooper Kupp at 4,500. Not just looking at this 10-target game last week, but he's gotten, aside from against Jacksonville, who is, in my opinion, the toughest pass defense in the league, look at his last 3 weeks. 10, 8, 7. Jacksonville pass defense to me is kind of like Denver defense. I'm just going to ignore this game. At 4,500, we want like 13.5 points. So for 13.5 points, I think we can definitely get there with Cooper Kupp getting the service that he's getting and getting the red zone looks that he is also getting. We can throw him into a first look lineup, giving us 5,800. We can spend now a little bit on a wide receiver. I'm not against going with him here, and that leaves us 4,500 to spend. What do we have down here at 4,500? Robert Woods, probably not going to double stack there. Watkins, hell no. John Brown against San Francisco. But God, I hate... It's 2 defenses that I want to stream against. There's 2 offenses that I want to stream against. Playing each other. That's not fair. I want to stream against Arizona the rest of the year with defense, and I want to stream against San Francisco the rest of the year with defense. In fact, what's Arizona's defense price? Yeah, 3,500. And even the 49ers' terrible defense is priced up. Look at that. 4.7 point average, 4 point average. Priced up because they're playing each other. Like 2 of the most streamable defenses that are left. I'm in. Dez seems underpriced at 6,400. Oh, I totally agree with that. Dez came down and against Kansas City, who has struggled. And he's getting solid amounts of targets, still solid in the red zone, and coming off of a bad game, right? Has not topped 20 fantasy points once this season, but we don't need 20 points for head-to-heads anymore with him. We need about 18 to 19 points. He's kind of lived in that range for most of the games this year. At 6,400, I do like Dez. Manny Sanders, 5,700. Sanu still getting solid looks. Still getting solid looks, right? The amount of targets that he's getting for 5,300 or whatever is just too low. We saw Jeffrey's price come way down, but he's playing Denver for good reason. Ted Ginn could give us some exposure to the... oh, look at this. Wait. No, they're 3,500. Damn. I'm not against that. I mean, Simeon, we just need 14 points, brother. That's like 200 yards, a touchdown, and 20 yards rushing. Make that happen. He's averaging 16 on the year. We got Mark Ingram, who's getting 25 touches a game and involved in the passing game with about 5 carries. We got Kareem Hunt getting the volume that he's getting against a bad Dallas defense. I agree that I don't like playing running backs on the road, and we have 2 of them in this lineup. Maybe we'll change that by the time the week progresses. But again, this is a first look lineup and not something for you to just plug and play on the weekend. So please don't do that. Don't at me on Monday. I played the lineup that you said to play in your lineup show, and it sucked, man, and you suck. It's Monday. This is not a playable lineup. This is the first look. Cooper Kupp, 4,500 gives us exposure to Dez Bryant. Ted Ginn Jr., 2K less than New Orleans. Yes, we're going to absorb a little bit more risk with Ted Ginn versus somebody like Michael Thomas because of his snap count. But Tampa Bay is just so bad against the pass that Ted Ginn has a really good chance to access a ceiling game this week. Jack Doyle at 4,300 with the amount of service that he's getting in that Indianapolis offense. Just too cheap. We still can't get up to him. If you want to come down off of this 3K defense, you can get up to Brissett. If you want to pair him with Doyle, fine. Adrian Peterson against San Francisco. San Fran plays really fast. Without their quarterback and Carson Palmer, they're going to have to lean on Adrian Peterson. I'm expecting 18-plus carries out of him this week, even though he did not get it last week. We'll have to examine that as the week goes on. I'd prefer a different running back here, but I can't argue with a first look going up against San Francisco and their high-pace, low-efficiency defense that we can attack. And the Giants D just sitting at 3K, whatever. You have 3,300 for any defense that you want. Eagles D against Denver. 49ers D against Arizona. Rams D against the Giants and Eli Manning, even though it's on the road. Giants defense against the Rams. You can pretty much do anything that you want with that defense, and there's usually a cheaper defense that you can access to really get after it. So that's going to be our first look lineup for the week. Appreciate you guys being here once again. If you're still watching this on YouTube or Facebook, hit that like button. If you're on Facebook, give me any sort of reaction. The ha-ha face, the crying face, angry emoji, give me the thumbs up. Do something. Do one of those things. Do a damn thing. And subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. Appreciate you guys being here. We'll be back later in the week with the Friday Q&A, with the articles, with the podcast, and the Anti-Tinkercast on Sunday morning, where we wrap everything up and hopefully get you guys ready to win more money in Week 9 on DraftKings. Until then, bye everybody.